Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about granular synthesis, and I've set up a project with an example of how you can make it a little bit more interesting than we did last time. I'll also show you an example in Serum, and with that being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so this was the project that I'm working on, and in particularly we have this transitional sound here. It sounds like this. Kind of like a riser, but I really like the texture, but the overall sound wasn't interesting enough for me. So I wanted to do something to make it a little bit more interesting, and if I quickly turn these off, then it will be a nice equal match. So without reverb and delay, the other sound sounds like this. So as you can hear, a lot more interesting. The texture has changed a little bit and there's some glitchiness to it. So that's what I'm going to explain for today. Finally, let's listen to it with the delay so you can hear what this can eventually be. I wanted to also let you listen to the dry signal, because then the glitchiness and the texture comes through better. But so to make this, what you want to do is you want to set up your normal granular synthesis setup, so that will be simpler on the channel here. And I've already rendered out the last two bars of this riser effect, which we'll be using. So just load that in and set up the standard granular synthesis. So turn loop on and snap off. For this we're going to use a value of 2 for the length. 2% of the loop will work fine here. And then we'll give it all the fade. And now we're going to group this so that we can have multiple channels. And we'll have another channel here. And we'll have this one to the left and the other one to the right. It doesn't really matter how you set it up. And then all we have to do is set the start to the to a macro so that we can have them both at the same value at all time. But now we're going to slightly offset them. So this is going to have start at 25% and goes to 100, and this is going to go up to 75. And that will make it so that it has the same ratio, so the same length of the loop for both channels, but they'll start at different points in the loop or in your sound here. So now we can make our MIDI clip. Let me just quickly turn this down. And we're going to play a C3. The reason for that is because this is already tuned. We don't have to retune it. So we can just play it at the normal C3, which won't retune it. And then I can go to the instrument rack and just set up the macro. And now we have this sound. So that's a lot more interesting than what we had before. The stereo width is a little bit messed up. So I'm going to just copy this over so you can hear what it is with a bit of stereo processing, and I'll quickly go over what's happening. Basically we're turning down the lower mids while turning up the high end. So it's a little bit wider in the high end, and therefore it sits nicer in the mix. And your fundamental tones are going to be a lot more mono, so that's gives it a lot stronger of a feeling. So now it's this. And once you add the delay and the reverb, you'll have a sound like this, which should be similar to what we have here, obviously minus the LFO tool, which just does a little stuttering effect, so it doesn't really make a big difference. So that's the end result. I'll also show you how you can set this up in Serum if you want to use the Serum trick instead. So we're just going to open it up right here. And we'll make a similar sound. So what you want to do is let's scroll down a bit here so we can see the sample. You want to import your sample here and just import it with one of these wave modes. On the last video in the Serum granular synthesis, somebody actually explained how these work. So I'll leave a link to that video in the description so you can look at the comments, and somebody actually explained how these different import modes work. For now I'm just going to choose this one, and because it's open we have to open up the folder. So I think you do that here and we should be able to import that now. Okay, so that's not possible, so we'll just import a different sound which you can use. Let's maybe go for an orchestral drum here. Okay, so this has done our import. We're now going to take a little portion of that waveform and remove the rest of it. Then we can just morph through it with the spectral morph. And now we have our type of granular synthesis here. Obviously it's no longer exactly the same sound and as this orchestral hit, but with some setup you can get pretty close. This is a slightly different way of importing things, but it still kind of feels like granular synthesis. But now if you want to do a different left-right channel trick, just like we did in Simpler, you can just detune them by 2. You can tune them up all the way, or you can choose not to have any detune. And then what you can do is just set the wavetable position up, which will create differences in the wavetable between the left and the right channel. So now we should have a nice stereo field there. So those were some little tricks I wanted to show with granular synthesis. Obviously you can take this a lot further. If you want, you can add a lot more tracks here, or you can process each track individually, or in Serum obviously you can use multiple wavetables, FM, all that kind of stuff. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.